What up, Hyperchange? Welcome to another episode. Today we're talking about Snapchat, the company's turnaround, Q2 2019 earnings. A lot to be excited about on this company that I once wrote off after Instagram was relentlessly copying them, but this new financial report, stock is soaring right now. As you can see, here's a chart of Snapchat stock, IPO'd at 25, basically all downhill from there, hitting a low of 5 per share. But since then, the stock has about tripled in the past year or so, or even a little less. And this is on the back of really dramatically improving financials and core underlying business metrics. So I want to go through all of that today, and then why I'm personally getting much more bullish on Snapchat than I frankly have ever been. And I think the company's future is very, very bright. So let's start with the numbers they just reported. Snapchat's historical daily active users. This is the most important metric by far. How many people are logging into Snapchat every day on average during the quarter? We saw 203 million. This was a record DAU. The first time was ever over 200 million. Actually, the largest net add for daily active users since Q2 2016. So Snapchat's core platform is accelerating in growth. And if you remember, the growth had dropped off a cliff in 2018, going to actually 0%, slightly negative actually, but now has ticked up to 8%. So if we overlay when Instagram launched, you can see that the Instagram stories launch had a huge effect on slowing down the growth of Snapchat. But then now in Q2 2019, Snapchat's platform has actually returned to growth, potentially shrugging off that threat of Instagram. So this is huge, huge, huge. And now we're about to get into the financials of Snapchat. But before we do, I just want to highlight how Snap's user base is, far more important than the financial metrics. It's a forward-leading indicator of what is actually going on with the platform. The financials are a lagging indicator. So to see it return to growth, to see the momentum be back on the user front, and 13 million net adds in the quarter, I can't overstate how important this is for Snapchat to see that user base continuing to expand. But anyway, moving into the financials. So the revenue growth rate actually is picked back up. Now the user growth accelerated. You can see it hit a low of 36% in Q4 2018, now hitting 48% in Q2 2019, up from 39% the quarter before. So accelerating growth here from Snapchat. This is what the quarterly financials look like. Charted out here, you can see that it's actually, lots of red here. The losses of 305 million this quarter, they were slightly better than 358 million in Q2 2018, so a nice improvement there. But I really wanted to hone in on the top line and gross profit for the quarter, because that's really where the improvement is. So here's the quarter: 388 million of revenue, 173 million of gross profit. Now, it may not look that great because there's that Q4 number, but Snapchat's business is seasonally very strong in Q4 and not as strong in the other quarters. And so if we compare this to Q2 2018, you'll see there's tremendous growth, 48% revenue growth, very fast growing on the top line, but even more impressive is 144% gross profit growth, more than doubling of Snapchat's gross profit. So this is the underlying profitability of the business that's dramatically improving. This is exactly what every bull has been waiting to see happen. And so if we zoom in here on the gross margin on a percentage basis, this is where it gets really exciting. And you can see that Snapchat is making that transition from making no money on its advertising revenue, moving into programmatic ads, expanding its overall user base, efficiencies, economies of scale, and they're transitioning into software-like margins here, hitting 44% in Q2. Remember, it's very seasonal. They go up throughout the year, so we could see well over 50% gross margins for Snapchat in Q3 and Q4 of this year. That is really, really exciting stuff. Moving to the cash situation, you can see that Snapchat has stopped burning through money, really. I mean, their cash has been flat at 1.2 billion. They basically still have, well over $1 billion in the bank with almost no debt. So they're in a very healthy financial position. We can even zoom in on that. Going into the earnings slides press release, you can see that the free cash flow chart here does a great job of showing how the business, the core actually cash used from the business, is shrinking dramatically. So at a high level, Snapchat reports a blowout quarter, a total reversal of all trends going on with the company. Huge growth in the user base, which drove huge growth in the underlying financials of the company. And specifically, I wanted to point out the augmented reality platform push part of Snapchat, because this is what I think the growth engine is of Snapchat, and what people aren't giving enough credit to. First, I want to bring this quote from Evan Spiegel that I heard on the conference call that really just stuck with me. And he says, "We are so excited about our opportunity to reinvent the camera and achieve our vision of overlaying computing onto the world." So if you think about what Snapchat is, it's much bigger than a social network. It's really a fabric of how to interact with the real world and the digital world, bringing those together. Such a big idea. I think there's a lot of different rumors about Snapchat. They did have launched their glasses, the spectacles. Those seem to have kind of fizzled, but I think that was a hint at the future of Snapchat, which is they're going to potentially, they still say we are so excited about our opportunity to reinvent the camera. So I think the chance of them releasing hardware in the future and sort of, leaping over Apple as the camera device is a huge, huge potential and opportunity for the company. And so today, what this actually looks like is really lenses. Here's what they say in the business highlights part of their earnings presentation. We recently launched the next generation of AR lenses that use deep neural networks to modify a person's appearance in real time, and over 200 million Snapchatters played with these new lenses in the first 2 weeks. 200 million people are using their augmented reality product. Personal anecdote, I've actually been using Snapchat a lot more and have been playing around with these lenses specifically, and they've been getting me to use the app because I just think they're hilarious and awesome. I was even doing it today. So I just think personally, I've been using Snapchat more, and this augmented reality sort of filter lens product is a big reason why. And so they also go on to explain the number of Snapchatters submitting new lenses through Lens Studio every month grew by more than 20% from the prior quarter. By the end of Q2 2019, over 500,000 lenses have been created by our community through Lens Studio. We saw more engagement with lenses by our community in Q2 2019 than the entirety of 2018. So lenses and augmented reality becoming a huge, huge bright spot for Snapchat that I think is going to that's where the story is all going to go in the future. And Snapchat has quietly become a leading augmented reality platform. Everyone likes to talk about AR as this huge buzzword, and every company likes to say they're actually capitalizing on that trend, but I don't think anyone really is better than Snapchat, and this lens data is what's proving it. Additionally, they're moving into Snap Games, which they launched here in Q2, which is sort of a different expansion of the platform that I think is really interesting, potentially drive additional engagement. One stat they threw out on the conference call, which totally blew my mind, is that the average user spends more than 30 minutes per day on Snapchat. I mean, the amount of attention that is on this platform is tremendous. And so, taking a step back from just the quarterly results and Snapchat's business overall, I mean, I'm really, really excited about the progress they're making because the asset is attention. How much attention and eyeballs do you have? Is that growing? Is this the place to be? If so, advertisers will go there, and the financials today are a lagging indicator of that actual cultural traction and success. And so I think Snapchat is quietly amassing a huge amount of attention with really young, tech-savvy consumers, which is exactly what advertisers want. Gen Z and millennials. And so I think Snapchat is quietly becoming this huge, huge social network in the making with a ton of potential. And the other huge brand ethos part of Snapchat that I think is a major advantage that's going to start and is already playing out, I think, in the numbers, is their focus on we're not about likes. There's no likes on Snapchat. It's like when I check Snapchat, I fundamentally feel good. It's about connecting with friends in a fun, creative way. I feel it's not a popularity contest like Mean Girls. After checking the Snapchat, I'm in a better mood. That never happens when I check Instagram or Facebook or Twitter or another social network. So I think Snapchat is sort of this Apple-esque privacy mentality and sort of social network mentality. The content approach they're taking with the Discover part of the platform is curating much higher quality content. And I think this curation is actually leading to really good engagement and higher quality sort of shows as Snapchat sort of becomes almost in some ways like a Netflix competitor or YouTube competitor on mobile, but higher quality, higher budget content that's specifically designed for mobile. In many ways, the phone is like a new sort of TV in a lot of ways. And I think Snapchat is becoming like a mobile TV app via its Discover platform, way beyond the chat and augmented reality part of it as well. So a ton going on Snapchat, a lot to get excited about. Frankly, it's a very complicated business that I think Wall Street is struggling to understand, and that's why the stock is so volatile moving on these quarterly results. Okay, so wrapping it up with my projections and the valuation of Snapchat. The company here, this is what my old estimates were: 1.5 billion in revenue and 500 million in operating losses. This is what I put out about 6 months ago or so. Well, this is what I'm expecting now. I've revised my revenue up to 1.75 billion. That could still be actually kind of low. In terms of operating loss, I'm actually expecting a loss of 950 million instead of 500 million. So larger losses, but higher revenue growth. And the reason why I'm really excited about this company is the user base. I think the financials are lagging the value of this company and the value of its users' attention. But anyway, here's the valuation. We're looking at 1.6 billion shares outstanding times 17 per share, about a $27.2 billion market cap. 27.2 divided by 1.75 billion in my expected 2019 revenue. You're looking at 15.5x price sales. So I'm On one hand, I'm extremely excited about the progress that Snapchat's making, and I think everything is going in the right direction. I think they have a ton of momentum, and we're in the very, very early stages of seeing a potentially behemoth in the making. I mean, Evan Spiegel is super young. He owns a ton of stock in this business. He founded it. It's the owner-operator-founder trend that I think creates these incredible companies over time. And so Snapchat could be sort of a unique standout outlier in the tech world and go on to becoming something huge. And I think the valuation of, 27 billion seems expensive based on today's financials. But when you think of a platform that has 203 million people logging in every day, that's only growing from here, that is sort of, literally leading and pushing the way of how that fabric of the digital world overlays into our real lives, which I think is such a huge trend. And so when I think about it from that perspective, I think, sure, 15.5x times price sales for a company that's losing a ton of money looks really expensive. But on the flip side, it's this platform that with such a high valuable amount of attention, 1.2 billion on the balance sheet, and their cash flow situation is improving dramatically, so they're not going to run out of money anytime soon. So I think that, the story on Snap here is changing from Instagram is going to put them out of business to this company is actually hanging in there, surviving, back to growth mode with a visionary CEO and founder taking up the moral high road as well, which I think is going to further, distance themselves from Zuckerberg and what Facebook is building in a really, really good way. So super excited about Snapchat. Actually want to make a lot more content about the company because I think we could go way, way deeper on what's actually going on here with the business. I think there's tons of exciting stuff to cover, but that wraps up for this episode. Thank you so much for tuning in. Huge shout out to our Patreon supporters, producers funding the channel. Let me know what you think about Snapchat in the comments below, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.